Welcome to Hidden Gem or Hidden Trash. I'm back with even more brutally hard RPGs. Our first contender is Popful Mail, an action RPG developed by Falcom, in the vein of the original Ys 3. The English version is exclusive to the Sega CD, so let's find out the positive and the negative about it. Popful Mail plays very similar to Wanderers of the East, also known as Ys 3. It's a side-scrolling platformer with strong RPG elements. Its fast-paced action and excellent controls let you move around swiftly. The music in this game is outstanding, full of amazing 80s and 90s vibes. Story is a funny comedy revolving around a bounty hunter called, well, Popful Mail. There's not much to it, but it charms you the moment you start playing, especially because the working design's localization included great voice acting. If we add those cool animated cutscenes, the plot adventure becomes enjoyable. All usual RPG elements are there, such as leveling up, grinding, buying items, and armor. Towns can often be found inside the areas and dungeons, which gives the game some Metroidvania feels. So the positive in this game is excellent gameplay, amazing soundtrack, funny story, charming protagonist, and good controls. This game is tough as nails, like many early Falcom action RPGs. So that shouldn't be a surprise, and it's actually a positive trait in my opinion. Learning how to fight the bosses adds a lot of fun to it. However, part of its difficulty derives, ironically, from its fast pacing controls. Often you'll get hurt by accidentally running into your enemies or jumping below them. That's okay though, since you can save your progress pretty much inside any area or dungeon in case you die often. Now, if only this beautiful game wasn't exclusive to the Sega CD. Physical copies of it are crazy expensive, surpassing the $400 range. There are other versions of it, as this one is technically a remake, but all of them remained in Japan. So the negative is extremely expensive game and some sloppy fast-paced action. Obviously, this is an excellent RPG, a beautiful gem that should definitely be ported to modern systems, at least digitally. If you can't afford its price, only way to play it is emulation, but trust me, it's totally worth it. I don't need then to emphasize that I deem this game as a hidden gem. The next contender is Monster Kingdom Jewel Summoner, a turn-based RPG about capturing and training monsters. Sounds familiar? It's a PSP game with a somewhat confusing name, so let's find out if it's any good. One of the first things that immediately stands out in this game is the voice acting. It has a great cast full of the usual good actors. Story premise is really interesting, revealing it's a classic anime-style role-playing game, contrary to what you would normally think for its name. Exploration controls nice in a top-down view, so moving around feels natural. Battles are random and turn-based. You can have 3 active party members, each with their own set of monsters to summon. They do all the fighting in screens that can split like this. So it's called Jewel Summoner because you need to weaken the monsters first, so you can capture them with a jewel. Positive aspects are as follows: interesting premise, cool turn-based system, great voice cast, and neat character design. Regrettably, even though the premise is interesting, the story soon turns into a sleep fest. Characters are heavily stereotyped, and their dialogues aren't fun at all. It had potential, to be honest, but the writing was just poorly done. It also has difficulty spikes like crazy that can be utterly annoying. Reason why is because it starts off extremely easy, but the first major boss battle kicks your ass rather quickly. So there you go to grind or to try to get more monsters, but the monotonous combat feels like a burden. I mean, the battle system is good, but some battles just take too long and so it grows old very soon. Negative aspects are boring story, uninteresting characters, annoying difficulty spikes, and monotonous grinding. Jewel Summoner had a lot of potential. With better writing and character development, it would have had an interesting story. Take out those difficulty spikes too, and it's honestly not that bad. However, there's no middle point in this video. It might not be one of the worst RPGs on the PSP, but still, I deem this game as hidden trash. Here's The Bard's Tale, full of dark humor and cynical writing. An action RPG that I streamed recently and couldn't get into. I played it a second time on my own, so let's find out if I changed my mind on it or not. The Bard's Tale is a quest-driven RPG with probably one of the funniest and dumbest stories I've ever seen in gaming. All this in a good sense, of course. It never takes itself seriously, often making fun of cliches and sometimes breaking the fourth wall. The gameplay is viewed from the top as you make your way through towns, dungeons and forests. I said it was an action RPG, so it's hack and slash, but often you'll have to summon elemental creatures to aid you in battle. Much later in the game, you'll have other party members as well. Now, this is a game with a cool decision system. How you react to everything will heavily influence the outcome of the story and the interaction with other characters. You can't be too careful though, or you'll miss some of the fun in this game. Positive stands in great humor, useful AI party members, and a cool decision system. It pains me to say that the gameplay mechanics in this game are an acquired taste. The Bard's Tale did okay with critics, but mainly because of its humorous nature. But it's not a movie or a TV series, it's a video game, and as such, it's definitely not for everybody. In my experience, controls were beyond clunky, hit detection never felt satisfying, the camera was mostly bad, and its quest-driven utopia became complete and utter nonsense. In other words, it's one of those that can often turn into a where the fuck do I go type of game. All of this turns it hard, but in the wrong way. I imagine you really need to be in this type of Western RPGs because if you're not, well, let's just say it's far from a good entry into them. I don't really hate this game, but I ran out of patience because it's just not my cup of tea. Its gameplay mechanics are arguably bad, but at least the camera and the combat are what I usually consider objectively awful. Therefore, I deem this game as hidden trash. The last contender is Darkest Dungeon, a brutally hard RPG nowadays available for all modern systems, including the Switch. It's quite dark and gothic too, so I can't wait to find out if it's good or bad. Right off the bat, like I mentioned earlier, it's dark as hell, taking place in what appears to be the Middle Ages. It is a quest-driven RPG that's based mostly on the exploration of a gothic mansion you inherit. It acts as a dungeon crawler, for so to say, even though it's basically roaming around the same areas. Battles are done in turns during the real-time exploration of these ghastly places. Positioning your characters, which are always parties of 4, is crucial to strategizing your victories. There's also the stress level every one of your guys has, which means they can either get exhausted or go crazy if you don't stop it in time. The atmosphere here is creepy, giving you horror vibes all the time. I'll just say it's technically Dark Souls, played in turns with party members. So the positive is, amazing concept, engaging battle system, excellent art style, and gothic themes all over the place. It may not look like it, but there's some micromanagement involved. You always need to carry certain items to certain places, so knowing the what and whatnots can sometimes be a chore. This game is extremely difficult, blaming some characteristics that I mentioned before, so you'll be dying a lot here. Restarting the dungeons can also be quite troublesome, but since that's the core of the game, it was logically done on purpose. Even though the premise and the story are fantastic, there's almost zero plot to keep you immersed. Then again, that was never the intention of the Canadian developers of this RPG. The dungeons are awesome and exploring them is addictive, but every once in a while you won't really know what to do. So the negative is, needs more plot, some tedious micromanagement, and occasional cryptic moments. If this isn't your type of game, forget about it. But if you're looking for a hardcore bastard, dark as fuck with great battle mechanics, then this is definitely a good choice. So with that said, I deem this game as a hidden gem. So that's it for this episode. As usual, I encourage everybody to play these games and decide for yourselves if they're good or bad. I'll see you in the next episode with even more crazy contenders. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!